Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm the sparkling Dianne de las Casas, host of Once Upon a Story, tales of authors, books, and the book biz on New Orleans 102.3 WHIV. We honor independent voices. I'm an author of 28 books, a publisher, a speaker, a storyteller, the founder of Picture Book Month, and of course, a radio show host. So I am really excited about being here again. This is a new radio show. This is my second show, and we're streaming live on Facebook. Hey, everyone. So please comment and ask questions while we're on air. We have someone monitoring it, so hopefully we can get to your questions. This week, we have Candice Huber, who is the owner of Tubby Coo's Mid-City Bookshop. She's our super cool guest, and I'll tell you more about Candice in a bit. So here's what's been going on with me. So I started a Snapchat, like yesterday or 2 days ago, and it's been interesting. In fact, I forgot to snap already. To me, Snapchat is a little more complicated than like Instagram and Facebook, even though my daughter Eliana is whispering over here, "It's so not, Mom." So Eliana is teaching me the ins and outs of Snapchat, and I'm like trying all the filters. Like yesterday, I turned myself into a giraffe. It's a lot of fun, but I could see the value in it. So the reason I decided to start a Snapchat is because one thing, Eliana said all the cool people hang out on Snapchat. So, I got to be like the cool peeps. And then Michelle Obama, our first lady, she uses Snapchat to reach young women around the world for an education initiative. So I thought that maybe I could do the same with my Snapchat with my literacy and anti-bullying movements. So if you want to friend me on Snapchat, I'm really not good at it yet. I'm still learning the platform, but I'm author Dianne DLC, or you can just look me up as Dianne de las Casas. And it's been fun. I love following other people because they have interesting Snap stories. Like Padma Lakshmi, who is the host of Top Chef. She posts the most amazing food because she travels all over the world. I think she's like in Guatemala right now, and she's like posting these taco bowls, and her bowl is colored like the rainbow. There's purple stuff in it, and green and blue and red, and like, wow, that's really cool. And then Eden Grinchpan, who is a television host, and she had a show, or maybe still has a show on the cooking channel. And of course, I'm a big foodie, so I follow her, and she has all kinds of interesting stuff. And I'm like, okay, how do I make my Snapchat more interesting? Well, you know what? Harry Potter's coming out, so we'll have to do something with that. So on June 5th, my publishing company, founded with my sweetheart and partner, John Corrett, is called Right Hook Media. That's WRIT, Right Hook. We released his very first book on June 5th. And, we're so excited about the book. And he actually has an event coming up with Candice and Tubby Coo's next week. And when his radio show comes on after mine, he'll tell you all about it. So my next book coming out in September with John is called Captain Deadeye, the Bully Shark. You're going to be hearing a lot about this, not just because we're excited about the book, but we're excited about what the book represents. It's book one in an anti-bully children's chapter book series, and it's at the core of our national anti-bullying campaign, and it's called Stand Up, Stand Out, Stop Bullying, and Be a Lifesaver. So, of course, John and I were both bullied as kids. He had lazy eyes, and they called him Deadeye John, and so he's the inspiration for Captain Deadeye. And I have third-degree burns all over my body, and in our book, the girl in the story, her name is Dee Dee, Dianne de las Casas, Dee Dee, but they call her Scar, and she becomes Scarlet, a gypsy pirate. So it's a lot of fun. So we're super excited because next week on August 2nd, right before John's event with Candice, which is called Reading Between the Wines, John and I are going to be attending the Catholic Schools Conference with Scholastic Book Fairs in Baton Rouge. And Scholastic Book Fairs has a pirate theme. Arr, I'm so excited. We're going to be seeing about 2,000 educators and introducing Captain Deadeye to hopefully all of them. So we'll be dressing up as pirates and we are going to have fun. So this Sunday, John and I were thinking about going to Pensacola when Eliana started waving her hands around. She's like standing next to me. She's waving her hands frantically and she's like, no, we can't go. Why? Oh, because I forgot. How could I forget? But The Cursed Child releases this weekend, and Candice of Tubby and Coo's is actually hosting a huge party that Eliana is going to attend, and so I have to take Eliana. So we'll go to the beach another time. So now for the good stuff. What you've been waiting for. Our special guest this week. Drum roll, please. It is Candice Huber of Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, which is actually not far from the radio station right here on Orleans Avenue. So your bookshop is located on Carrollton Avenue.
Yeah, North Carrollton, pretty much right at Carrollton and Orleans, which is just up the street from here, actually.
You almost could walk, if it weren't for the heat.
That's true.
So let me give you a little bit of background about Candice and what her store is and who she is. So Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop is locally owned and woman-owned. It's a nerdy bookshop in Mid-City, New Orleans, but there's so much more than a bookshop. They have free Wi-Fi. Holla! Everybody loves free Wi-Fi. And they sell merch such as t-shirts and board games and other fun apparel and toys. But what I really love is that they're a community center for nerds, geeks, freaks, and the like. And those are not my words. Those are Candice's words. And those are the words of the self-proclaimed nerds and geeks and freaks. And I claim to be one of them as well. And you are too, right, Eliana?
Definitely.
So her lifelong dream was to open this bookshop, and it's family friendly. I love it. I can't wait to tell you all about it. And now she's finally fulfilling her dream. So Candice, the nerdy Candice, loves Doctor Who. Give me a thumbs up if you love Doctor Who too. Star Wars, The Walking Dead, Thundercats, Harry Potter. Are you a Potterhead?
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Game of Thrones. She loves Disney and board games, among other geeky things. We're big board game fans too. I have like a whole ottoman like coffee table that is completely filled with board and card games.
Awesome.
Yeah, we love them. So she's also super into dragons. And if you go in her bookstore, you will see upstairs there is a gigantic mural of a dragon. And on her website, there's a picture of her standing in front of the dragon. And when we released John's book, we actually released it at Tubby and Coo's. And John signed books in front of the cool dragon.
If you're lucky, I might tell you the story behind the dragon.
We might have to, we definitely have to hear that. So this bookstore's motto is, it's all geek to me. Candice, I'm so thrilled to have you on Once Upon a Story.
I'm excited to be here.
Yay. And I see that you're also like a comic book fan because you're wearing wearing a Batman shirt.
It says Datman, like New Orleans.
I didn't even notice.
Saints,
and it's got the
Batman
a fleur-de-lis
mashup.
What?
Yes.
That is cool. Where did that come from? Was that from Dirty Coast?
I actually bought this at BSI Comics a long time ago. I don't think they have them anymore. I don't know where. You could probably look it up online or something.
It's so clever.
I love this shirt. So I wore it because it's geeky in New Orleans. So.
It definitely. A lovely combination of the two. So let's talk about the awesomeness of Tubby and Coo's first. Why don't you tell our listeners how you came up with the name for Tubby and Coo's? Okay. And then I want you to kind of take us on a little visual oratory tour of the bookstore because the inside of the bookstore is so amazing, and I just want everybody to hear about it.
Cool. Yes. So Tubby and Coo are my grandparents, and they grew up only a couple of blocks down from the bookstore on Toulouse Street. They actually were born across the street from each other. Aww. And they grew up together, and then they got married and were together their entire lives. And they have such an awesome story. And my grandpa was around for my grandma's entire life. And so I love this story, and I love my grandparents. And so I had always said that if I ever did actually open a bookstore, that I was going to put it in their neighborhood where
Honor
they grew
them.
up and name it after them. So
They must have
that's
given
what I
you
did.
such a foundation of love for you
they
to do
definitely,
that.
They definitely did. It's my mom's parents. And we grew up with them. You know, we would go over there after school, and they would take us to City Park to feed the ducks. And we got a lot of stories about Mid-City growing up. And I'm actually a 6th generation New Orleanian. My family has been in this area for
Since
6
Jean
generations.
Lafitte.
Yes. And so I said, well, if I open a bookstore, it has to be in the neighborhood where my
Right.
family has been for so long. So that is the story behind Tubby and Coo's. And then as far as the store goes, so I can an auditory descriptive tour
Yes.
of the store. So when you walk in, so I tried to design the space to where it gets younger the further you go into the store, is the idea of it. So when you walk in, that's where all the adult books are on the bottom floor. There's a mural of New Orleans and an archway.
And by adult books, you mean books for grown-ups.
Books for grown-ups.
Right.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's true. I always say that, and then it's like, that might mean something different to other people, and I never
Books for
think about
grown-ups,
that.
my friends.
Yes. So not children's books is what I should say.
Right.
We're mostly science fiction and fantasy. We are not an adult store, I promise. Mostly science fiction and fantasy. I also have graphic novels, adult coloring books, for
huge
adults
craze.
again,
Right.
and toys and things like that. And so when you walk in, it's the grown-up area, and then there's an archway, and we have a mural of New Orleans above the archway.
And it's so pretty. I mean, the murals all throughout the store are amazing, and I can't wait for you to get to the stairs.
I know. And the murals are my favorite part, and I really wanted the store to look different from all the other stores. We have so many really good bookstores in New Orleans, and so I knew I wanted to be different and do something to make the store stand out.
And
I
have
feel
your own
like
niche.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think the murals and, of course, appealing to my fellow nerdy folk does that.
Right.
And so as you keep going, you hit the kind of the second part of downstairs, and the back wall is platform 9 3/4 from Harry Potter. It's painted to look like a brick wall, and it's got the little sign on there that most people don't even notice unless you're really looking for it.
Unless you're a Potterhead.
Yes, which is what I like.
And the little underneath the stairs.
Yes, and that's the next part. So you go, and so once you get onto the other side of platform 9 3/4, that is the young adult area.
Right.
And that area is Harry Potter themed. And so there's a room under the stairs that says no muggles allowed. And if you open it up, it's Harry Potter's room. And
How amazing is that, guys?
my favorite little nook.
How cool.
it's so great.
Check and see.
And
I want her to, I'm telling Eliana to check Facebook Live, see if anybody's making any comments. Because like how cool is,
It's cool.
if you've been to Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, let us know in the comments of Facebook Live. We would love to hear.
yes, for sure. And then the stairs are painted to look like book spines. So the idea is that I wanted it to look like a stack of books. And my husband and I chose all of the books that are on there. So it's all of our favorite books.
Like Charlotte's Web.
Yes.
And yeah, there's so many cool books.
And
I love
Dune and Harry Potter, of course.
Right.
And Game of Thrones is on there, and Alice in Wonderland, and Catch 22 is my husband's favorite. That's on there. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, books like that.
I love it. So the risers of the stairs are the book's spines, and it's just so pretty. You're like, when you walk up the stairs, you know, it's not like walking up ordinary stairs. You're like, what book am I walking on?
And on the wall, as you go up the stairs as well, I have floating bookshelves, and the idea was to go along with the Harry Potter theme that it looks like magic, like the books are magically
And it
floating
does
on the shelves.
And everybody
so many
wants
people
to
ask
find
me
the
how it
secret,
works.
right?
Yes, they
How
do.
did you,
Everyone
how did you
asks me how it
float
works.
these books on the wall.
Yeah.
So it's a special bracket, but you
No,
have
it's
to.
magic.
Oh, sorry. But you have to go to the bookstore to see this magic bracket.
It's magic. It's a magical L bracket.
And it's not just an ordinary L bracket. It truly is magical. Okay, so we're going to talk about something a little bit more serious now, Candice. I know that recently you had a fire at the bookstore. And
Yes.
we found out about it on Facebook. Thank you for social media. And we were so saddened. But can you tell us about the fire and what happened? What kind of damage did you have to the store? And how did it impact sales? And what are you going to do to bounce back from that?
Yes. So this was, I guess, Saturday's ago. I don't exactly remember the date.
Some Saturdays ago.
I think it was I think it was last,
Saturday before last.
Saturday before
Yeah.
last. And the store at about 4:00 in the morning, I got a call that our alarm was going off, and come to find out, it was actually a fire. The firemen had broken into the store. Luckily, a very awesome neighbor and customer of the store actually was walking by and happened to see
The fire?
The fire. He happened to see what happened. He said he was coming home. He is the manager of a bar, and he was coming home from his shift, and he noticed that the air was hazy, and so he thought that was weird, and he decided to go and check it out. I don't know why, because if I came home and the air was hazy, I'd be like, oh, the air's hazy, and I would probably just go inside, right?
It's magical.
Yeah, like nobody, like, I don't know. I wouldn't think to like walk around, but he did. And so he saw kind of the fire shooting out into the alleyway. I guess one of my big lights in the back went on the fritz somehow and just kind of caught on fire. And the firemen responded within 3 minutes. So our local fire department is amazing. The Mid-City guys. And so when I
Props to
drove
the fire
up,
department.
big props to the fire department.
NOFD.
When I drove up, there was like 5 fire trucks. It was really scary. And the firemen said that if it would have been another 10 minutes, then my whole building and the building next to me would have been on
gone.
fire.
Oh my gosh.
It was very, very close. But luckily, the damage was only to the back. It was in the backyard. So the damage, I don't know if anyone's ever been to our event space. The damage was to the event space in the back. So the back deck is charred, and then the columns are all wood.
It's blackened.
And yeah, so it's all a little like blackened and falling apart back
Oh.
there. So
That's
we're gonna
not the
have
good
to,
thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to redo the back deck and then the front doors that the firemen kicked in just to make sure. But fortunately, nothing inside was harmed. No books were harmed in the making of this fire. Is what I'm saying.
Thank goodness.
So yeah,
so
it
lucky.
was-
But I imagine that you probably had a few days of downtime as you were dealing with repairs and dealing with the fire and the insurance and all of that.
Yes.
As you know, when a disaster of this kind happens, and as a small business, that can be really damaging. Just to even lose a couple days of business. So, what can we do to help support you as a small business?
Yeah, we lost about 6 days of business
That's
due to
a lot.
the fire, which is a whole lot, especially for a bookstore. And so you can come and shop at the store. That's the biggest thing that you can do is come on over and check us out, especially if you've never been there. And I think that's just the biggest thing to help support is to come out and buy something. We do have the Harry Potter party this Sunday, so if you want to come to that can help support us. We always
we're going to
have
talk
really
about that in a
fun-
minute.
and we have really fun events and stuff that's happening. So
You do.
I say the best thing to do is just to come and buy stuff to help us get back on our feet.
Get some books, some board games, some toys.
Yes,
Books for kids, books for grown-ups.
that's true.
So why, in this climate right now, you know, we have the big box bookstores that have been causing tons of indie bookstores to close and shutter their doors. Why now? Why did you decide to open an independent bookshop in a city that already has a few very successful independent bookshops?
Yeah, actually, I'd done a lot of research because I knew I wanted to open a bookstore, and I knew we already had a lot of local bookstores. And so I was doing research on could this actually be viable? And I opened one because there weren't any bookstores in Mid-City. Maple Street had one a while ago, and then it had shut down.
Right.
So Mid-City area didn't have any. They're all uptown or in the French Quarter. And also the indie bookstores were kind of seeing a resurgence, a little bit of a revolution because, believe it or not, with Amazon and online retailing,
Backlash.
they actually put the big box stores out of business because big box stores don't really offer people anything other than what Amazon can. It's all about variety and it's all about price, you know, that they're cheap and there's a big selection. Whereas independent bookstores are more community centers and places to
about
go
service.
and gathering spaces and service, and you get that personalization that you don't get from the internet. And so I think that's why people, if they don't shop on the internet, they go to independent bookstores because the big box stores don't really give you anything that the internet can't. And so when I kind of looked at the revolution that indie bookstores were seeing, and then knowing that there wasn't a bookstore in Mid-City, seeing how successful the other stores were, and the other thing is that my niche was not being met. I'm a nerd, and there really wasn't any store that catered to nerds in the city. And so that's why I decided to cater it to my specific group as well.
And it's actually working very well.
It's working out very well, yes.
I remember that when we were finished with our event in June, you were having board game night. And as soon as we packed up, like a huge crowd rolled in.
Yes.
And good thing we left some food for them.
I know, that was awesome.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Once Upon a Story, and I'm your host, the sparkling Dianne de las Casas, on New Orleans 102.3 WHIV. We honor independent voices. So I'm totally loving this interview of Candice Huber, my dear friend and bookseller and owner of Tubby Coo's Mid-City Bookshop. So we're going to delve into more about Candice and find out a little bit more about her life. So let's talk about something.
Sounds scary.
Let's talk about something fun. So you consider yourself a Potterhead, right?
Yes, of course.
So for all the Harry Potter fans out there, and I know there are tons out there, tell us, that's Eliana saying me in the background, tell us what you have planned for the release of the new book, The Cursed Child, on J.K. Rowling / Harry Potter's birthday on July 31st.
Yes. So every year we already do a Harry Potter party. We did one. Well, last
Potter
year was the
party.
first year we were
Say
open.
that 3 times
Potter
fast.
party. Yes. Last year was the first year we were open. So this will be our second one. But we plan to do it annually on July 31st. Every year we have Harry Potter's birthday party.
Mark
This
your
year there just
calendars.
also happens to be a book coming out as well. And so we are from 2 to 4 p.m. on Sunday. We're going to have a Harry Potter party, and it should be a lot of fun. We're encouraging everyone to dress up because we always encourage everyone to dress up. And we're going to have fun and games and butterbeer cupcakes.
What?
And
What?
yes,
What?
we will have butterbeer cupcakes, and we're gonna have. I'm gonna decorate the store to look like Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, and we're also going to have.
Can we
a
bring our
really
wands?
Fun, yes, you can definitely bring your wands. Where everyone's gonna get sorted. We're gonna do a House Cup Harry Potter trivia tournament with prizes.
Oh
we're
my
also
gosh.
gonna be having a mystery Harry Potter thing. So if you've ever been to like one of those like murder mystery dinners, it's going to be similar to that, except it's Harry Potter themed. So everyone's going to get a role, and then there's going to be a mystery. Everybody has to try and figure it out.
Wow.
And we're also going to have Harry Potter coloring, and I'm going to have a big wall so that everybody can write what Harry Potter means to them. We're going to have a transfiguration booth, which is our photo booth where you can transfigure.
Right. Well,
and
so
take
that's
photos.
your muggle wall, right? So-
Yes, the Muggle wall.
Well, what if some of us are
And
magical?
Then it can also be a magical wall. And so it should be a lot of fun. And of course, we're big Potterheads. There's an entire section of the store dedicated to Harry Potter. So,
And of course, the actual like murals and
Yes.
things that you have already, even before this all came out, your store is magically set for this event.
it is. So it should be a lot of fun. And if you can either order the book at this point, my pre-orders are actually completely sold out. So I won't have any copies of the book to sell because I've already sold all of the ones that I ordered.
Wow,
So that's actually really
congratulations.
good.
Yeah, congratulations.
But I will have some later on in the week. So
I
if
was
you
gonna
don't
say
get
rain
it on,
check.
yes.
Okay.
So you can, if you order a book to get later on in the week, then you can get into the party. Or if you don't want a book, you can pay $15 and come to the party. anyway.
Eliana just almost passed out. She was like, no book. No book. What? No.
I will have the books. I just won't necessarily have them on Sunday.
Okay, so we're going to go a little bit beyond the bio, and you did promise that you would tell us that dragon story. So
It's a little crazy.
it is really crazy. When I first heard it, it was like, doo-doo-doo, like Twilight Zone-ish.
Yeah, it is. So I had an artist that did all of the murals who is super talented.
Right.
If you come and see the murals, you'll see. But also a little nuts. And he really honestly believed that he had trapped the devil in that painting of the dragons.
Like I said, doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And he also says that there's a green dragon and an orange dragon, and the green dragon is his ex-wife. And
I like
she's-
that dragon, actually.
The green dragon is hoarding treasure, which are supposed to represent his kids. And then she's blowing fire at the orange dragon, which is supposed to be him, because she is like burning him and setting him on fire while she's hoarding his kids. And I was like, that's a lot of personal information. But I think if you know that story kind of behind the painting, it's like, whoa, you kind of see more into it than you do if you're just looking at, oh, cool, it's dragons. But if you know that one's an ex-wife burning the ex-husband and hoarding his children, then it kind of gives it more character.
Right. It definitely. When you walk into that room and you know the story, you're like, dang.
And he said his ex-wife was the devil, so the devil is supposedly trapped in that painting as well. So it was interesting. It was an interesting experience.
Maybe it was the dragon that came off the wall that started the fire.
What? Maybe.
Magical things happen in magical bookstores.
It's very true. Didn't think about that, but that could be true.
So why don't you give our listeners some advice on what to do and what not to do when you're starting a business? So when you went into this, you're a brand new entrepreneur, you're young, you're adventurous, but I imagine there were some lessons you had to learn.
Lots of lessons. I knew nothing about the book industry, had never worked in it, had never worked in retail, actually. And
what?
I have never worked in retail or in the book business. I had to learn everything. So I guess the first thing is that just because you don't know something doesn't mean you can't do it, or doesn't mean you can't learn it.
Right, you can learn it.
I knew nothing. I was in the corporate world, and that was all I knew. But I knew a lot about HR and project management and IT. Those were the areas that I worked in, and business. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I know business, and my passion is books and nerdy things. And so I just decided to put those two together. So I think that would be one, is if you're really passionate about something and you think you can make a business out of it, even if you've never worked in it or know anything, just do your research and you can definitely figure it out. I'm still figuring it out as I go along. And so I think that was the biggest thing. And then if I knew then what I know now, I would have 100% gone all in on my niche from the beginning.
Were you afraid to niche yourself, and you were kind of like a one size fits all at the very beginning?
At the very beginning, yes. I was a little afraid. I knew that I wanted to cater to a certain audience for sure, and I did build the bookstore on that. But I thought that if I didn't have at least something for audiences outside of that audience, that people wouldn't shop there, or that it would turn away customers. And so I wanted to be a little bit of a general bookstore. But what I quickly learned is that because of how I market myself, and people who want those kinds of things,
they identify.
Yes. And so the people who come and shop at my store are the people who want science fiction and fantasy and graphic novels. Every so often we'll have someone who walks in that doesn't. And, now I'll just tell them I don't, if they're looking for a literary fiction book, I just tell them I can order it for them, or I refer them to one of the other bookstores.
Right.
So I think that would be my two biggest things are, don't think that you can't do it. And also just because you don't have the experience, and go all in. I mean, if you have something, just focus on whatever it is that you want to do, and don't try and do too many. And I think that's the other thing I've seen with a lot of other business owners that I feel like I've been fairly good at is a lot of people try to do too much too fast. And I see that all the time.
And they fail within they say the first 3 years. Exactly. Jinx joke.
Yeah, exactly. So I say, focus, make sure that you do a lot of research, and then give yourself time for trial and error, which I'm still doing. My 2-year anniversary is coming up, and
it's hard to believe it's only been 2 years.
I feel like I've been there so much longer. But I'm also like
forever.
But I'm also really hard on myself, and I feel like I should be a lot farther along than I am. So give yourself
sometimes
credit.
Baby steps to get to the bigger platform.
Yes, and I've been working on pulling back recently as well, to focus more on my niche.
Right. And your family. I mean, you have to create that balance between your personal life and your professional life, something I struggle with all the time.
Yes, me too.
So finally, if you could have written any famous book already in existence, what book would it be and why?
Any famous
book in existence. And let's take Harry Potter off the table, because, everybody's...
Yes. So if I could have written any book in existence, I probably would say The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman.
That's a good
One,
one.
because I wish I was Neil Gaiman, and I love him so much, and he's my favorite, and anyone who goes on my Facebook will know that. And I wish I could be as good of a writer as him because he's amazing. But also, I think it's a book that says a lot. It has a good. It starts
really
with
a murder scene in the beginning.
Starts
It's
with
like
a murder
action.
scene. But I think it's about not just parenting, but mentoring. And, at the end, they kind of like raise this kid and then send him off. And I feel like that
kid who grows up in a graveyard.
And
it won the Newbery that year.
Did win the Newbery. It's actually the only book that's won like all three awards in the UK and in the US
Right.
for a kid's
It's
book.
amazing.
And so it's an amazing book.
So I have a tiny Neil Gaiman story.
Okay.
So I was at the Newbery Awards when he won. And
wow.
so I went into the receiving line, and they always have a long receiving line, all the librarians and other authors. And so, you're waiting in line, and I'm one of the very last people. And so when I get to him, he looks like he's just going to pass out, fall over. Oh. And he whispers in my ear, he says, "Do you mind if I lean on you?" in his beautiful accent, right?
I would have melted into a puddle and passed out.
So I said, "No, not at all." So he's actually like leaning on me. I have this picture of him with his arm around me, and it looks like we're like best buddies.
Oh my gosh. That's what I'd be telling people.
He was like, "Can I lean on your head?" I'm short, So he like had his hand on my head. He was joking with me, and he was like, "Thanks, doll." I'm like, yes.
That's amazing.
So, I have this picture of Neil Gaiman. He looks like we're best buddies, but really he was tired.
He was tired.
He was tired.
That's
But
awesome.
hey, guess what? He touched me, right?
Heck yeah, he did. Anytime.
He hugged me.
Anytime.
He hugged
I
me.
would
I hugged
switch
one of the
places
great
with you.
writers of this century.
Yeah,
How
that's
amazing is
amazing.
that? Well, Candice, it's been such a pleasure having you on Once Upon a Story. I'm so glad you came to the Story Studio.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, guys, if you want to find out more about Candice and Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop and the Harry Potter Party and all the events that they host at their wonderful store, you can go to my website, DianneDeLasCasas.com. And let's thank Candice for all she's doing to bring her brand of geek chic to New Orleans. Welcome back. I'm Dianne de las Casas, your sparkling host of Once Upon a Story on New Orleans 102.3 WHIV. We honor independent voices. We're also back on Facebook Live. And now, my friends, it's time for Book Buzz. So we've been talking about it a lot, and especially because my show is about books, but I'm going to talk about it again. The largest publishing event of the summer isn't a novel or tell-all memoir. It's a script. It's actually 1 and 2 parts. So if you didn't know, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is the hotly anticipated continuation of J.K. Rowling's beloved franchise. And it is actually a script. So it's not a book per se, but it's a book with a script in it. So in case you didn't know. And it's slated to hit shelves on Sunday or Saturday at midnight. And it's already breaking records. Scholastic, the U.S. publisher of Rowling's collaboration with John Tiffany and Jack Thorne, they've printed 4.5 million copies in North America. Yeah, they are really expecting a lot of people to get this book. And as you can tell, when we interviewed Candice Huber of Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop earlier, she said she already sold out of her pre-orders. So definitely people are buying the book, they're pre-ordering. And if you want your copy, you need to make sure you go to your bookshop now. So it's going to be the largest publishing event of the summer, and I can't wait to tell you more about it because we're going to attend one. So if you don't know by now, adult coloring books are all the rage. You can go to a big box grocery store and find adult coloring books. And when I say adult coloring books, I mean coloring books for grown-ups on the shelves right near the checkout. And they're crazy about them, and they have them in themed. Like I found some at my local dollar store and they were themed like around the world themed. So there was one of Paris and one of London and one of Amsterdam. And I don't know, they have all kinds of themes. Neil Gaiman has coloring books out. It's crazy how this coloring book craze has taken over. So capitalizing on this craze, indie bookstores across America are celebrating with a coloring book party day for adults on August 2nd. So get your crayons ready. Check your local indie bookstore. See if they're having a coloring book party. I guess all these adults are going to be coming into the store with their crayons, or maybe they provide crayons and they buy a coloring book and they just sit there and color. Do they talk? Do they eat? What are they doing when they color? If you're into the coloring book for grown-ups craze, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what it is about coloring books that is making people so happy. I would love to know. I know that sometimes when we go to a restaurant, we'll get a child coloring sheet and we kind of take turns decorating it. And I guess it is a little relaxing. So here's a heartwarming story. It's not necessarily book news, but I'm including it because it has a tie-in to my upcoming book with John Corrett, illustrated by Stephen Jolett, Captain Deadeye, and our anti-bullying campaign. A few days ago, rock star Gwen Stefani, you know, the ageless, most beautiful Gwen Stefani. Well, she was in concert in West Palm Beach, Florida. There were in her audience, like right in the front row, there is a 12-year-old boy named Brandon Buford, and he had a sign that said he was bullied from the first through the fifth grade. His mom made the sign, and his mom told him Gwen Stefani is his favorite, and so he would find solace and comfort in Gwen Stefani's songs. And his mom told him that if she came in concert, that she would take him and that she would get as close as possible. Well, they kind of got there right in the front row, and mom made a big sign. And Gwen Stefani saw the sign. It caught her eye, and she read the sign, and she was so moved that she brought Brandon up on stage. She gave him a big hug. She talked to him. He started crying. I mean, can you imagine, like, your biggest, most favorite rock star pulls you up on stage in front of thousands upon thousands of people? I bet he's the cool guy at school now. And because of that, he actually has a lot of media opportunities now. People want to interview him because he got to hang out with Gwen Stefani. So after the show, they took him backstage and he got to take pictures with Gwen Stefani and her son. In fact, here's a cool little fact about her son. So her son, Gavin, at one point, he has all kinds of different hairstyles and different colors in his hair. And at one point, he had like a blue mohawk. And when we were designing the character of Shark for Captain Deadeye, that is what we wanted. And I didn't know that Gwen Stefani's son had a blue mohawk. So when I started looking up pictures of blue mohawks online, her son came up. And I thought that was really cool. So our character in the story, Shark, has a blue mohawk, and he was designed before I saw the pictures of Gwen Stefani's son, but Gwen Stefani's son was definitely a big influence and inspiration in developing the look of that character. So now it's time for NOLA Book Buzz. So here I'm going to give you some news about what's happening in and around the literary community here in New Orleans. We've got a bunch of stuff happening book-wise all over the city. So on Saturday, July 30th at midnight, Octavia Books on Octavia Street in Uptown New Orleans, they're hosting a Harry Potter midnight release party for The Cursed Child. Award-winning interactive storyteller Frank Levy, and I know Frank very well. He is an awesome guy and super talented. I know it's going to be so much fun. But he's bringing his theater magic to the evening. So if you go, you can participate in wizardly tales and join Harry Potter partygoers and making up a magical cast right there in the Octavia Books. So they're going to have like this big play. You get to be part of it. Frank is going to facilitate it. It's going to be so much fun. And of course, you're invited to come in costume. Bring your wands. Go to Ollivanders, go get your wand, bring your wands. Then on Saturday, July 30th, again at midnight, Barnes & Noble stores are hosting Midnight Magic for the release of the new Harry Potter book. And each store is planning different celebrations, so check with your local B&N for more details. And of course, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to recap because on Sunday, July 30th from 2 to 5 p.m., Tubby and Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, they are commemorating the Harry Potter birthday party with, of course, the release of The Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. And like Candice said earlier, butterbeer cupcakes. That would be like a mic drop. Boom. If you haven't had butterbeer, oh my gosh. So the very first year that Harry Potter World opened, I know it's not really called Harry Potter World. It's like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter or something like that at Universal in Florida. So the first year it opened that summer, we went as a family and we had the butterbeer. And let me tell you, the butterbeer is amazing. It tastes like a combination of butterscotch and vanilla and all things yummy and delicious. It's so good. And they actually do the butterbeer in two parts. So one part is like liquid gold, the butterbeer part, and then they have the foam that goes on top, and the foam comes out of a separate tap. It's so delicious. And they have it both liquid and they have it frozen. So I can't wait to see what butterbeer cupcakes are going to look like. Oh my gosh. Eliana is showing me some butterbeer. Is that like butterbeer frap?
At Starbucks. There's on the secret menu.
The secret menu of Starbucks has a butterbeer frap, y'all. What? I think we need to go to Starbucks and yeah, we're doing that. We're so doing that. So also, while supplies last, they will have Harry Potter coloring sheets, activity sheets such as Harry Potter words. I'm sorry, while supplies last was meant for the butterbeer cupcakes, not the coloring sheets. Oh, so they're going to have a Marauder's Maze for magical mischief makers and so much more, King's Crossword puzzles. And you get to sign the Muggle/magical wall. I actually told Candice that it had to be a magical wall because some of us might be magical. So Muggle/magical wall. And then, of course, you can take photos in the Harry Potter themed photo booth. On Wednesday, it used to be August 3rd, but because of the fire, Candice had to change the date. But so it's Wednesday, August 10th from 7 to 8 p.m. Tubby and Coo's is hosting Reading Between the Wines. And I'm super excited about this event because you'll see in a second. It's a laid-back salon type of environment where guests drink wine, they eat cheese, and talk about books. I mean, it can't get any better than that. The event takes place at Pearl Wine Company inside the American Can Company here in New Orleans. And it features special local authors in a speed dating edition. So this is going to be really fun. People switch from table to table, find out about their favorite authors and favorite books. And there are going to be 3 featured local authors who have brand new books out. Guess what? One of those featured authors is my sweetheart and partner, John Corrett, with his book, Breaking Barriers, How to Knock Out Adversity and Live Life as a Champion. And then there's poet Stacey Balkin, Jackalope Girl, and mystery author R. Jean Reed, Roots of Murder. So drink some wine, get some book recommendations, leave with excellent reading selections. So I'm super excited about that. We have time for just a little bit more, and I thought that I would close out with a story. Gwen Stefani really inspired me with her act of kindness and helping that boy, deal with the effects of bullying. It's an issue. It's so profound to me. I was bullied very badly as a child. In one incident when I was in 9th grade, so I was a freshman in high school, I was dating a guy whose sister did not like me, so she sent some girls after me. They cornered me after school right by my own apartment, and two of them held me, one of them punched me, and gave me a little hairline fracture on my jaw. I mean, it was really bad. So, I think it's really important for us to spread the message of love and kindness. And here's a little story. There was once a king who had a beautiful castle. And all around this castle was a moat. But over the years, the water supply to the moat had run dry. And the king said, "I cannot have a castle without a moat. What am I to do? Oh, I know just the thing." So the king decided to have a grand feast. He sent out an invitation to all of the people in the kingdom. They were all invited to the royal feast. In exchange for entrance to the feast, they all had to bring a container filled with water. Some of them brought tiny little thimbles filled with water. Some of them brought big buckets filled with water. And others brought huge wagons filled with water. But no matter the container, everyone was admitted to the feast. So everyone had a grand time, and they ate and they drank and they listened to music. And then at the end, ceremoniously, they all brought their containers to the moat, and they emptied their containers of water into the moat. Slowly, the water level of the moat began to rise, and it was full. The king looked over the moat, and he said to his people, "Thank you so much for helping me fill this moat. I could not have done it without you. We are a community and we did it together. And this feast is not your only reward. So you will be admitted to the royal treasure room, and you may fill your containers with gold dust." So those that brought tiny little thimbles, well, they filled their thimbles with gold dust. And those that brought big buckets, well, they filled their buckets with gold dust. And those that brought huge wagons, they too filled their wagons with gold dust. You see, my friends, kindness cannot be measured, but it is often repaid in kind. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me this week on Once Upon a Story and coming to the Story Studio. I'm your host, the sparkling Dianne de las Casas, signing off. Remember, you can't raise leaders if you don't raise readers. And life is too short not to sparkle. Up next, at the top of the hour, John Corrette on Breaking Barriers. You're listening to New Orleans 102.3 WHIV. We honor independent voices.